Born a Crime: Stories from a South African Childhood by Trevor Noah. Introduction: The Crime of Being Born. Trevor Noah's very existence was illegal. Born in 1984 in Johannesburg, South Africa, Trevor was the son of a black Xhosa mother and a white Swiss-German father during apartheid, a time when the law forbade relationships between races. His birth was literally a crime, punishable by 5 years in prison for his parents. This fundamental illegality shaped every aspect of his childhood and gave him a unique perspective on identity, race, and belonging. Apartheid wasn't just racism. It was a comprehensive system that classified people into rigid categories: white, black, colored, Indian, and dictated where you could live, who you could love, and what opportunities you could access. For a mixed-race child, Trevor existed in the cracks of this system, belonging nowhere and everywhere simultaneously. Part 1. Growing up under apartheid. Trevor's mother, Patricia Nombuyiselo Noah, is the hero of this story. She was a remarkable woman who refused to accept the limitations placed on her by apartheid. Determined to give her son opportunities she never had, she made radical choices that defied the system at every turn. One of Patricia's most subversive acts was taking Trevor to 3 different churches every Sunday: a white church, a mixed church, and a black church. She wanted him to experience different perspectives and understand that God and opportunity weren't limited by skin color. These Sunday marathons were exhausting but formative, teaching Trevor to code switch and navigate multiple worlds from an early age. Living together was dangerous for Trevor and his parents. His father, Robert, couldn't be seen with them publicly, so he lived separately. When Trevor was with his mother in public, she had to walk far ahead or behind him to avoid detection. Sometimes she'd have a colored woman walk alongside Trevor, pretending to be his mother, while Patricia followed at a distance. The absurdity of these arrangements revealed the deep dysfunction of apartheid. Trevor's grandmother lived in Soweto, the sprawling black township outside Johannesburg. The house was chaotic and filled with extended family, including Trevor's uncle Andrew. The township was a world unto itself, vibrant, dangerous, and operating under its own rules, separate from white South Africa. One vivid memory Trevor shares is about being thrown from a moving car. His mother, escaping an uncomfortable situation with a minibus driver, grabbed Trevor and jumped from the vehicle while it was moving. Rather than being traumatized, young Trevor found it thrilling, proof of how his mother's fearlessness and quick thinking became normal to him. She taught him that sometimes breaking rules wasn't just acceptable, it was necessary for survival. Part 2. Language, Identity, and Belonging. Trevor's mixed race made him a chameleon, belonging to no single group, but able to blend into many. His mother understood that language was the key to unlocking different worlds, so she insisted he learn multiple languages. Trevor became fluent in English, Xhosa, Zulu, Afrikaans, and several other languages and dialects. This linguistic agility became his superpower. In school, Trevor could move between groups that normally didn't interact. He could speak Zulu with the Zulu kids, Xhosa with the Xhosa kids, and English with everyone else. He learned that speaking someone's language, even just a few words, created instant connection and trust. It allowed him to be an insider and outsider simultaneously, observing social dynamics that others took for granted. However, this fluid identity also meant Trevor never fully belonged anywhere. He was too black to be white, too white to be black, and not quite colored either. During apartheid, the colored community, mixed-race people of various backgrounds, had its own distinct culture and place in the racial music, and positioned himself as someone who could get things for people. He wasn't the strongest or the coolest kid, but he was resourceful and funny, skills that proved more valuable. His most significant business venture came in high school when he became a DJ and party promoter in the townships. Trevor had a knack for reading people and understanding what they wanted. He and his crew would organize parties, and Trevor would DJ, playing music that kept people dancing. This wasn't just about making money, it was about creating joy and community in places that desperately needed both. The CD and DVD burning business became particularly lucrative. Trevor would get the latest music, movies, and software, burn copies, and sell them. In a poor country where people couldn't afford originals, piracy wasn't seen as theft, but as access to culture and information otherwise denied to them. Trevor became the neighborhood's connection to the wider world. These hustles taught Trevor valuable lessons about risk, reward, and reading markets. He learned to spot opportunities where others saw nothing, to build networks and relationships, and to stay nimble when circumstances changed. These skills would serve him throughout his life. Part 4. Crime, punishment, and Grace Trevor's adolescence coincided with post-apartheid South Africa's growing pains. Freedom had come, but with it came chaos. Crime skyrocketed as the old oppressive order collapsed without a functional system to replace it. Township life became increasingly dangerous. One of the book's most gripping stories involves Trevor's business partner and friend, a young man he calls Hitler, not because of any Nazi sympathies, but because parents in the township would name their children after famous historical figures without understanding the context. Hitler and Trevor ran various schemes together, including their CD business. One day, their business took a dark turn. Hitler had been dabbling in more serious crime, and Trevor found himself unknowingly involved in a stolen car operation. When the police arrived, Trevor's world nearly collapsed. He was arrested for possession of a stolen vehicle, facing serious jail time. The experience was terrifying, a glimpse into how quickly life could go wrong in South Africa, where the justice system was overwhelmed and often arbitrary. Trevor's mother once again saved him, hiring a lawyer and fighting to prove his innocence. Eventually, the charges were dropped, but the experience shook Trevor. He realized that his hustles, which seemed harmless, existed on a spectrum that led to real crime. He saw friends get pulled deeper into that world, unable to escape. The most powerful lesson from this period was about grace and second chances. Trevor could have ended up in prison, his life derailed before it started. Instead, he got the chance to redirect his path, largely because his mother refused to give up on him and had the resources and determination to fight for him when others couldn't fight for themselves. Part 5. Love, Violence, and Patricia's Strength. The most difficult and important part of Trevor's story involves his mother's relationship with Abel, Trevor's stepfather. Patricia married Abel when Trevor was still young, hoping to create a stable family. Abel seemed charming at first, tall, handsome, mechanically talented, and successful by township standards. But Abel was also an alcoholic, and when he drank, he became violent. The abuse started slowly and escalated over years. Patricia endured it, hoping things would change, trying to protect her children while maintaining her dignity and independence. She never stopped working, never stopped being strong, never stopped making her children believe they could be anything. Trevor watched helplessly as his hero, the strongest person he knew, was beaten down by this man. The violence created an impossible situation. Trevor was growing up, getting bigger and stronger, wanting desperately to protect his mother, but knowing that intervening could make things worse or land him in prison. The situation reached its horrifying climax after Trevor had moved out and started his career. Abel's violence, fueled by jealousy and alcohol, culminated in him shooting Patricia in the head. Miraculously, the bullet passed through her head, missing her brain, exiting through her nostril. She survived what should have been fatal. The shooting revealed South Africa's deep dysfunction around domestic violence. Abel received a minimal sentence, just probation, because the courts were overwhelmed and domestic violence wasn't taken seriously. Patricia's survival wasn't due to justice or protection, but to sheer luck and her own incredible constitution. Through this trauma, Patricia maintained her faith, her strength, and her refusal to be defined by victimhood. She had taught Trevor to think independently, to question authority, to find humor in darkness, and to never accept limitations placed on him by others. Even nearly dying couldn't break her spirit. Part 6. Becoming Trevor Noah. As apartheid ended, new possibilities emerged for Trevor's generation. He didn't want to be trapped in the township or limited by others' expectations. His gift for languages, his quick wit, and his ability to read situations made him perfect for entertainment. Trevor started doing stand-up comedy, initially just at small shows and events. Comedy in post-apartheid South Africa was complicated. The racial wounds were fresh, and talking about them was dangerous. But Trevor had a unique perspective that allowed him to address race, identity, and South African society in ways that made people laugh while making them think. His mixed-race background, which had been a liability under apartheid, became an asset. He could joke about all sides of South African society because he'd lived in all of them. He understood white South Africans, black South Africans, coloured South Africans, and all the groups in between. His comedy bridged divides because he himself was a bridge. Success didn't come overnight. Trevor worked constantly, taking any gig he could get, learning his craft, and building his reputation. He hosted television shows, appeared on radio, and gradually became one of South Africa's most popular entertainers. The big break came when he started performing internationally. His unique perspective on race, politics, and identity resonated beyond South Africa. Americans were fascinated by his stories of apartheid and its aftermath. His ability to discuss serious topics with humor and insight made him increasingly in demand. Eventually, Trevor was chosen to succeed Jon Stewart as host of The Daily Show in America, an almost impossible opportunity for someone from a Soweto township, born as a crime, raised in chaos and poverty. It was the ultimate validation of his mother's belief that he could be anything. Conclusion. The power of Patricia. Throughout Born a Crime, the constant theme is Patricia Nombuyiselo Noah's extraordinary influence on her son. She was a woman who refused to accept apartheid's limitations, who valued education above all, who taught her son to think critically and question everything, and who maintained hope and humor through unimaginable hardship. Patricia worked multiple jobs to give Trevor opportunities. She taught him to read at age 4, filling their tiny room with books. She exposed him to different churches, communities, and perspectives. She never hit him, but disciplined him through conversation and consequence. She taught him that being smart was better than being strong, that humor could diffuse any situation, and that rules were often arbitrary and could be challenged. Most importantly, Patricia taught Trevor that he wasn't defined by the circumstances of his birth. Yes, he was born a crime, but that didn't mean he had to live as one. His mixed race, his poverty, his context, none of that determined his future unless he let it. Trevor Noah's story is ultimately about transformation, of a person, of a nation, of possibilities. South Africa went from a place where his very existence was illegal to a democracy where anything seemed possible. Trevor went from being a mixed-race kid with no clear place in society to one of the world's most influential comedians and social commentators. But the transformation that matters most is internal. Trevor learned to turn what seemed like disadvantages, his racial ambiguity, his chaotic childhood, his in-between status, into advantages. He learned to see the absurdity in oppression without minimizing its pain. He learned to find humor in darkness without trivializing suffering. Born a Crime is a love letter to Trevor's mother, a document of South African history, and a meditation on identity, race, and belonging. It's about the power of one person's belief in their child to overcome systems designed to crush that child's potential. It's about resilience, humor, and the possibility of transformation even in the most oppressive circumstances. The book ends not with Trevor's success, but with his mother's survival, the shooting, her miraculous recovery, and her continued strength. This ending reinforces what the book has shown throughout. Patricia is the real hero of this story. Trevor's success is ultimately her success, the fulfillment of her refusal to let apartheid define her son's life. For readers and listeners, Born a Crime offers profound insights into how identity is constructed, how systems of oppression work, and how individuals can find agency even in restrictive circumstances. It's a reminder that our backgrounds don't determine our futures, that humor can be a form of resistance, and that love, particularly a mother's love, can be the most powerful force for transformation. Trevor Noah was born a crime, but he became a testament to the power of human resilience, the importance of perspective, and the possibility that even in systems designed to dehumanize, humanity can triumph.